Hello, welcome to the Fifth Star. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Tom Cruise.
Psych.
I'm Albert.
And this is a podcast where we are trying to find a 5-star movie. And when we find that movie, this podcast will have its final reckoning.
So in this episode, we are reviewing the final Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible number 8.
Number 8.
Yep, the final reckoning.
Yep.
So we both secretly wrote down what we rated the movie on this whiteboard. And I'm going to guess, Jamie, that you gave this a 3.0 out of 5 stars.
Okay. I'm going to guess you also gave it a 3.0.
Okay, 3.0. And we're gonna, if this is your first time joining us, we are going to do our spoiler-free review first.
Yep.
And then we'll reveal our scores. Also, watch out for our ranking of all of the franchise
At the very end.
So we're gonna slot this in. So, Jamie, what did you think of Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt's final reckoning?
Dude, it was so good. It
What?
was amazing.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding.
Oh my god. I
will say though,
okay.
So I don't think this is a spoiler. It's technically in the trailer.
Mhm.
The entire submarine sequence was very well done. I will say that much.
Really good.
I was so stressed the entire
Mhm.
time. I thought the way they built tension was done really well, like on
Yes.
par with number 1, the whole
Yep.
Black Vault thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was very good. So, and then there were some other elements that I really appreciated as well.
Mhm.
So it kind of was a mixed bag. My main qualm with this movie
hmm
was the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like both bad guys.
yeah.
The entity, I mean, if you've seen 7, you know what the entity is.
hmm
And it's kind of uninteresting, I think. For me personally, it was
Yeah.
uninteresting. And then I forget Gabriel.
hmm
Cartoon bad guy. Not a very, I mean, was it his acting or was it his like just choice in character? I don't know, but it just felt like a cartoon villain and I was not a fan.
Yeah. I 100% agree with both of those things.
Okay.
I mean, Gabriel in the first movie was fine.
I didn't
He
really
was
like
fine.
that one either.
Yeah, in Dead Reckoning, you know, he was like subservient to the entity and
Yeah.
doing its bidding, but he at least was kind of a serious villain. He seemed like always one step ahead, in control of everything.
Yeah, that's true.
But in this movie, all of a sudden, he's like, like just laughing like a crazy madman, just like randomly during the middle of an action scene, and like multiple times throughout, you just start
Yeah.
cackling and like, I'm gonna get him, you
like
know,
a Disney villain.
yeah. And I'm like, what happened to him?
I don't know.
The only kind of thing I can maybe make sense of that is that supposedly, you know, the entity can make you go crazy and make you lose your mind the more you kind of spend time with it, and it brainwashes you. And
But he was still kind of acting like that in 7.
was
I
he?
thought.
I didn't.
Well,
thought he was much
I
better in
described
7.
him as a cartoon bad guy after watching 7.
Hmm.
And then I just felt like
Interesting.
that was
It got
more
definitely
supported.
worse
Yeah.
in the last one.
yeah.
Oh man, there were just times he kind of took the weight of what's happening out of the movie for me, where it was
Yeah.
just like, oh, this is just all ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already a ridiculous premise, which is part of the Mission Impossible franchise.
Yeah.
And you're fine with that.
Right.
But the villains have generally been fairly, not always believable, but, you know, like, was that the Lane character from 5 and 6?
Solomon, yeah.
Solomon Lane. Like,
He's
he was
actually
like pretty, intimidating,
Yeah.
and you take him pretty seriously. So, and then Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
so we've had some good villains, and for this one, all of a sudden, for him to become what he did, I just thought that was
Yeah.
not good.
That was kind of
And
disappointing.
then, I think with the entity also, I thought in 7, I already didn't really like the idea of an AI bad guy.
Yeah.
But at least there's some parts where the entity you can see, like, where hopefully you guys have already seen 7, but like where he's like distorting the audio and talking to Ethan Hunt in Simon Pegg's Benji's voice and misleading him down the alleyways, you can see like, oh, the entity's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But then, and kind of doing things.
Yeah.
But in this movie, he essentially like is gone. The entity like is just there on a map.
It's like a presence that you don't feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have one moment where the entity interacts with Tom Cruise, and I thought that was decent.
Yeah.
But the whole back half of the movie is just like, oh, there he goes. He just took over another, I don't know how much we want to get into the plot, but yeah, he takes over another nation, and takes over another, and it's just like a ticking time bomb, but the entity's largely absent.
And I wish that they had like maybe spent a little more time developing the whole acolyte thing. Like that kind of felt like a throwaway comment at the very beginning.
What
like,
was acolyte?
He has basically the entity has created disciples that follow him, and they called them acolytes. And you kind of like see them throughout the movie. They do actually make an impact on the plot, but like because we didn't get the reasoning behind it, like how the entity was able to do that, it felt like lazy writing.
Yes. One thing that's pretty interesting in the beginning part of the movie that's kind of setting up what's going to happen is that the entity coming off of the last movie has now infiltrated media and is kind of misleading people. And there are people like rising up, rebellions, riots, and all this kind of stuff. So it's breeding chaos, right? With misinformation.
But we don't really see how. We're just told that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of seems obvious to me that it's just manufacturing like fake media reports and then making people angry.
I guess, but like how would that lead someone to murder? I don't know. There's a couple moments where I'm like,
you're right. Yeah, you're right. Because philosophically, like what would make someone a complete disciple where they're willing to kill somebody over this, believing that the entity is actually for the good of humanity. And
I would have liked to see like a character maybe start to fall into some of those traps. Yeah. Just so that we could have a better understanding of how it works.
Yeah.
And that would have been interesting if like one of his teammates started to buy into it a little bit.
Yeah. And, there's potential with it because it's relevant, right? Like we have a lot of misinformation on the internet. We have deepfakes out there where you don't really know if what you're seeing is true or not.
Yeah.
So you have AI telling us, fact checking things for us. And it's like, well, do we trust the AI summary when you do a question search in Google? So some of these things are relevant and do kind of hit home, but they kind of tease it a little and then it just goes away. Like they don't really unpack it fully.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think that would have definitely helped a lot more. And largely, I just thought the whole first part of the movie, almost like the first hour, is just exposition.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, with a few like little hand fight sequences that aren't particularly impressive. I mean, every Mission Impossible movie up to this point, I think starts out with a major like set piece, like stunt.
Yeah.
That kind of kicks off the movie.
Right.
But this one doesn't,
This one had flashback.
Yeah.
Flashback.
What did you think of the flashback?
Like
montage.
I'm torn because part of me felt like this is kind of cheesy. But then another part of me was like, I'm glad that they're paying homage to the whole franchise and all the different directors and everyone who like took part in it.
Yeah.
So it kind of had like a real world effect.
Yeah.
But in the actual story, isolated from the real world, it felt cheesy.
Just tacked on.
So that's what's hard is that you want it to be meaningful for the plot and the real world.
Yeah.
And it's hard to achieve both with something like that.
Yeah. So I enjoyed the montage. But I think I only really enjoyed it because I had just spent the last week going through all the movies, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh yeah, that scene. Oh yeah, that scene. Like every shot you recognize. But for the person, like if you guys have not been rewatching everything and you just haven't seen anything since Dead Reckoning and you just go into this cold, I feel like you would watch it and be like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Of this. So it would feel just tacked on.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're doing this just because it's the final movie.
There's a character that shows up, I won't say who.
Yeah.
From one of the old movies. And I recognized him immediately.
Oh, you did?
But
I didn't.
nobody in the theater did
Yeah.
because you probably hadn't seen it in forever.
Yeah.
And so they didn't react until it was kind of explained who he
Revealed.
was.
Yeah.
And I was just like, ha 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 ha. I know exactly
Yeah.
who that is.
I think I realized like maybe half a scene before it was revealed, but not when I first saw him immediately.
Oh, okay.
So it took me a little while, but it was like there were a lot of callbacks in this movie, apart from the montage. Like for example, the rabbit's foot from part 3.
Yeah.
Like they kind of explain what that was all about,
Which
and how
that
that
was,
connects.
I don't know how I feel. Well, it was kind of cool because that was a MacGuffin. That was totally a MacGuffin.
It was. Like it's never explained.
Yeah.
And
So it
so
was
here at
kinda
least you get
cool.
something.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't seem like that's at all what 3 was setting up in the movie.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like I didn't mind all these callbacks, and there's been reviews I've seen, and a lot of stuff online about people hating on all of that stuff. For me, it was fine because this is a final movie and an attempt to tie it into the previous movies, which a lot of times those movies do seem, because they were many years apart, especially the first 4, do seem very like one-offs.
Yeah.
And it really isn't until Christopher McQuarrie like takes over number 5, Rogue Nation forward,
That they start to be
that
connected.
it becomes more cohesive. So I thought that was like a fine thing to do, and I didn't mind it at all.
I thought it was respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The issue I had was the ending, which I won't. We can talk about more in detail later when we go into spoilers. But I just thought like the movie starts off with this recognition and this weight of like this is potentially the final movie, and then the way it ends is just so like flat, like it just ends and
it kind of is open ended.
Yeah. And I'm
I was
like, wait, is this not the final movie?
This is supposed to be the final movie. Tom Cruise told me at the very beginning, he said, this is the last one.
Now, it might be that he's going to produce more Mission Impossibles and there's going to be a different character taking over, or
that's kind of my fear.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. With like Ethan, no one else can, I think, really be Ethan Hunt in his truest nature except Tom Cruise. What I would really like to see is an origin story of Ethan Hunt, because in this movie we start to get
hinted at
a little more of the last movie, the backstory, which comes out of nowhere.
It
like
does.
It's just like, oh, now there's like this bad guy who he has this long history with, and there was another woman that he had something happen, and it becomes like so random. So if we got an origin story of what was going on during that time and how he came into the IMF,
or maybe the origin of the IMF, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that could be interesting too.
Yeah,
but it has to be Ethan Hunt,
Yeah,
like if it's true. Mission Impossible.
That's true.
Yeah,
I'm glad that he cried in this movie.
Did he cry?
He cried like 3 or 4 times, and I think it's the first time he's cried in the whole franchise.
Did he cry at the end? Did he shed a tear?
I think he did.
He did?
You really didn't see how much he cried?
No.
He was crying.
I don't see tears. I don't make tears.
Oh my gosh. I really liked that though, because it actually showed me a side of his character that I feel like we hadn't seen. Like it was a vulnerable moment for him, or moments that we hadn't seen. And I kind of liked that. It really humanized him for me. So I don't know. I appreciated the tears.
Yeah, I think this movie does have some of that kind of sentimental weight behind it. Like between him and Luther, especially. But I think in the end, it just felt so off that it didn't feel like a conclusion.
Yeah. I would agree.
I think if that had at least wrapped up more, I almost wish the montage was at the end of the movie. Right? Or even like during the credits, like let that be the credit sequence. So we're kind of walking away out of the theater like, oh yeah, that was
the legacy.
Yeah, the legacy of this franchise,
Yeah, actually. But the credits would have worked, because then it wouldn't have felt super tacked on or cheesy.
Yeah. Which I didn't mind again in the beginning, but then give me a good closing of the whole franchise at the end. But it was just such a letdown. I think before reveal, the only other thing I would say, first of all, Milchick makes an appearance. For those of you guys who've been watching us in our Severance reviews.
Yeah.
Man, I thought he was great.
Yeah.
He's
like so good at just not having an expression.
Yeah, his line delivery with a kind of deadpan but humorous, kind of.
Are you out of your mind? Yeah. I can't remember what he said exactly.
Yeah. I thought he really helped that sequence work really well.
Yeah.
To me, this movie is like defined by its acts. The first act, way too much talking exposition, not enough action. Second act, the whole
all action,
Milchick, submarine, it's all good, right? The third act, all of a sudden, when we get to the point that we were like, oh, this is the natural like conclusion type point that we've been the mission. Now, in normal, typical Mission Impossible fashion, is like, oh, there's this whole other thing we need to do, right? Go to another location, which is fine, but it just becomes so convoluted that literally the whole time, and we'll talk more about in spoilers, the details of that, but I was like, why does this need to happen?
Yeah, I lost the thread too.
Yeah. And I was
confused.
tracking the whole way, and then that last part was just like this whole switcher up that I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
That it almost took away like the whole biplane scene, which is on the poster and everything, that stunt sequence. It was great, but it kind of, I just kept being taken out of it by being like, why does this even need to be happening right now? But it was crazy because he really was up there on the planes.
Yeah.
And so
he was just like tied on his belt basically.
Yeah. And the little harnesses are there not to help him even stay in position really. Like there's slack and stuff, so he's still like his body's free and moving around.
At 62.
Yeah. It was
insane.
It was basically so that if he passed out, which apparently he did at one point, the take just kept going, that he passed out on the plane. So that's why the harness was there, so that if he passes out, because
he won't fall off.
Yeah. While you're up there, he realized he couldn't breathe because the wind was too strong, and so he had to like kind of cover and find ways to find air, like pockets and things like that, so he can breathe. I think at the least that stunt does feel like a really good climax in terms of all the stunt work that this whole franchise has been known for.
Yeah.
That it kind of pays off. I was also very mixed in terms of plot, all this kind of stuff. The movie overall felt very uneven. But if we want to reveal, do you want to reveal? You guessed I gave it a 3.0. I actually gave it a 3.5 because I do think it was really objectively, just story-wise, probably a 3.0 movie. But the subsequence and the airplane stunt, like those already to me like take it above average. They were so impressive, and I think that's really at the end of the day what you're going to Mission Impossible for, and I think he does deliver. And I was at least thankful that the franchise ends on that high note. So,
well, I gave it a 3. You were correct.
Yeah.
And it's mostly because I just decided that overall the plot was not that great. Character development was and there was so much cheesy dialogue. I got so irritated by how they kept finishing each other's sentences, which they did in 7 as well.
Oh.
Where it's like an entire scene where it's like 6 characters and they're all like finishing each other's sentences. And I'm like, nobody actually talks like this. And it's very distracting. And like, what is this, a hive mind? Are they all sharing a brain? Is that
They're
why?
sharing the same script. They're sharing the brain of the screenwriter.
And so that kept happening in this movie too, where like everybody kept completing each other's sentences, and I'm like, it's okay. Like you can have one character say all of this. It's okay.
Or say one full sentence and then have someone else say another full sentence. Yeah.
Or like have them disagree with each other or interrupt each other, or I don't know, anything to make it just feel a little more real. It just felt like hollow, like they were reading lines. And when they were explaining everything in 7 to Cary Elwes, I forgot what his station was. The whole scene, I was like, this is boring. It's flat. Why are they all explaining it to this one guy who seems to be in charge but doesn't know anything that's going on? That doesn't make any sense. And then that kind of happened again in this movie. And I was like, ugh. All of the round table scenes with the president, I was like, these are like, I'm bored. Anyway, so that's why it's a 3.0.
Okay. Well, let's get into spoilers. And then if you haven't seen the movie, you can use the chapter marker to skip ahead to our final ranking of the whole franchise. But if you have seen it, I think that really the thing that hurt it the most was this whole final act of, okay, now he gets, spoiler alert, right? He gets the drive of the AI source code. And that's like the whole thing that we were building towards, right? So that all made sense. And then so he gets that. And then now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, the AI's taken over all the nukes, except the US. The AI wants Ethan Hunt to download the entity into like this remote like vault, right? In South America or something, or South Africa.
Yeah, and where did he get that cylinder thing? Where did that come from?
So that came from Luther, who
conveniently,
you know, like in some makeshift like lab, put together like with Radio Shack parts and stuff.
Oh my word.
Basically put together like a next generation. It was like called like a 5D like hard drive storage thing or whatever.
I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And way too convenient.
Yeah. And so
that's a Deus Ex Machina right there.
And then there was another thing where it's like, I can understand when you plug it in, because it's essentially a USB drive, right? When you plug it in, that it lights up. But when the entity's in there, and then later, like at the end of the movie
it's
where
like
they deliver it, it's glowing, but it's not plugged into anything. It's like, oh, so
and it's like in a baby
it has
pelican.
its own power, yeah. Which is kind of
pelican case.
Yeah. It was almost like a Pulp Fiction where like you open the case, the MacGuffin, you know, and then it's like glowing. But here we get to see it's like a little. So yeah, that's a little far fetched, but fine. I mean, Luther, he's awesome. He's a great hacker, you know, engineer. So fine. He also creates the poison pills, the only one thing that's able to take down the whole entity that's like super intelligent and all that. So okay, fine. But the fact that the entity and maybe you can help me with this. The entity wants to nuke the whole world.
Right.
But it can't, because then it will destroy itself.
Yeah.
Unless it gets uploaded into the Ark servers where it can be shielded.
Forever.
Yeah, and live forever. I guess at the bottom of like the vault and the ground or whatever.
Yeah.
But then Gabriel tells us, oh, he's just bluffing. Because it won't nuke itself unless it gets uploaded there, so I'm not gonna upload it. So he just takes the hard drive and wants to take the poison pill so he can control it, and then flies away. And then Ethan Hunt's like, no, I need to still get it back so I can upload it to the thing, therefore risking the whole world getting nuked, right? It's like, why don't they just not bring it into the Ark?
I think it's because he doesn't want to risk, like I think he's worried that
but
the entity's not bluffing.
But then the entity would destroy itself by nuking itself to oblivion.
I think that was like his logic, was that maybe he would. I don't know.
And then so like, but it's like, oh, when you upload it to the server, you have a split second where you can hack the thing, and then it can get trapped into this USB drive. And then within a blink of an eye, they keep saying, right? 100 milliseconds, you need to capture it and pull it out before it realizes that what's happened, and then it's going to shut itself away from the system or something or whatever. You can't capture it. So you got to do that. Or so if you take it too soon, it's going to nuke the world or something. And if you don't, then it's going to block itself off from, or maybe that's reversed. I don't know. So it was just like so convoluted. It's like, why does this need to happen?
Yeah.
Did you understand this?
I mean, I understood it, but I do agree it was convoluted.
What is the reason? Why does it need to be uploaded and caught in the thing, and it can't be?
Because that was just the trap.
But why do they need to trap it?
So that they can destroy it. But then they don't destroy it.
They don't destroy it.
But yeah, it was supposed to be trapped so that they could destroy it. For some reason, that terabyte like sucked the whole entity into it. So the entity only exists in this weird little thing.
Okay.
Now.
So I think, I think that makes sense. So I watched this movie with my friend Elliot, and shout out Elliot. Thanks for the movie ticket. After we watched it, we spent almost like an hour trying to understand exactly what was happening with the whole like trapping it thing and why it had to be like that. And I think the best explanation we came up with is that I think if they just let it not go into the Ark, it wouldn't have nuked the world, but it would have just continued to wreak havoc because it was creating all this misinformation. It had basically embedded itself into the whole internet, right? And that was still destructive.
Maybe it would only nuke part of the world.
Maybe, okay. And then so the president and them, they're like, oh, why don't we just destroy it? And then, or you know, we want a controlled entity, and then Tom Cruise wants to kill it, and then they're like, oh, but then it's going to take down the whole infrastructure of the world with it, because I guess it had embedded itself. So I guess by putting it into the Ark, the entity feels safe enough to remove itself from the whole internet, and then just completely download itself just onto those servers, so that it frees up the world from its influence. And then the assumption is that it would then go ahead and nuke the whole world.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why he needs to download it to the servers. But in that moment, when it does get downloaded and they capture it, they can pull it out, and before it buries itself into the servers, and then they can't extract it, I guess. Right?
I guess so.
But it's like you shouldn't have to think about it that hard. And that's why, like, when all of this action is happening, he's on the planes trying to get the poison pill and all that. I'm just like, wait, why are we even doing this? Like, what's happening? And then they're trying to defuse the bomb, and then
timing.
Like, all this stuff is happening at once, which is kind of normal.
It was clear that it had to be done in a certain order. They kind of kept reiterating that.
I guess.
Like, they couldn't cut the wire until the pill had been put in the thing, and then they couldn't undo the bomb until... Actually, the bomb part didn't... Yeah, okay, actually the bomb part didn't quite make sense, because they had to detonate... They were waiting to detonate it until they had figured it out, but they didn't need to. You're right, because they were fine.
Yeah, well, I guess... Yeah.
Because they were like, give Ethan more time. And so they kept waiting to cut it.
Well, I guess they were just... It took them that long. It took them exactly how much time was left on the clock.
No, because Grace tells them, give Ethan more time. Like, as much time as we can give him. And so they wait until, like, the last second before they all three detonate it together.
Oh.
And
I thought that was
didn't
cutting
understand...
the server.
No, the bomb. The bomb.
Oh.
Maybe I'm misremembering.
Yeah,
but anyway,
because she was in the server room, I think.
Yeah, but she was talking to them through the comms.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, and then it just felt like we just need to have everything happening. Every character needs to be on some ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
And it's like, how many times?
Simon
I mean, this
Pegg.
was like Fallout 2. It was like also in Dead Reckoning in the airport. It's like every countdown just diffuses out 1 second left. You know? It's like, can we for once just let a bomb go off?
Wasn't it like the exact same ending basically as number 6 with the helicopter chase and the detonator?
And he's trying to get the thing while they're at the bomb.
Climbing onto the helicopter, taking the guy out. Exactly what happened in this one. It was exactly,
yeah.
It was kind of a repeat, which that's why I wasn't super impressed with the planes.
It was also the same as in Ghost Protocol, where they're in the server room because the nuke's been launched, and they're trying to reconnect the suitcase while Tom is like trying to get the suitcase in the garage, and he's trying to push the button, but they need to like
mission accomplished.
Switch on. That was good.
But I feel like that's why I didn't think the plane sequence was as cool as the submarine sequence.
Yes.
Because it just felt like a copy of the helicopter stuff. Whereas submarine, I was like, this is new. Yeah. And I'm so scared.
I agree.
There's no way he should be alive.
I also liked the submarine sequence better. I mean, I think they filmed in the world's largest like water tank. And so they were really flipping him around and stuff. Apparently, because the mask had the lights, and that was really just to illuminate his face, he couldn't even see out the mask. So he was having to memorize what he needed to do and then do it blind, basically.
I did see like all their hand signals
that
they had to have for like, this is cut.
Mm.
This was like keep rolling.
Okay.
You know, like they had to do all hand motions because they couldn't hear each other.
Yeah. It reminded me of like Inception where they're flipping the hallway.
Yeah,
but this is
I thought that
with
too.
water though.
Because like that one shot where the water is like completely diagonal was so cool.
It was cool.
And then I did think it was a little ridiculous that it was spinning that fast.
No, but the submarine is rolling down the thing.
I didn't think that it should have like been able to roll that easily. I guess it makes sense because it's flooding with water.
I thought it was cool.
But I was kind of like, I don't think it should be rolling this quick.
Oh.
It's so big and heavy.
It felt like they were spinning it slowly though, to me.
Towards the end, it was really fast. Yeah? I was like...
But you have all the torpedoes falling.
I was like, he's
going to
die. He's definitely going to die. There's no way. And then when he took his suit off, I was panicking.
Yes.
I was like, he's not going to make it.
And then
There's no way.
And then the mask gets caught on the fin of the thing. And then you're like, oh my gosh, he's going to get sucked down. And he just rips it off and it just goes with nothing on, no breathing. And he has to decompress. And so all of that.
I'm sure experts were like, he'd be dead.
I mean... Yeah, if you're going to do one of those fact checks, then I'm sure a lot of Mission Impossible stuff. But I thought it was really suspenseful. And I agree with you, like you said earlier, about the fault scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to, what Tom had said in the comments about that episode, our last episode. Like the use of suspense by having no music and not cutting quickly, like hanging on those suspenseful moments, it actually adds to it.
Yeah.
And they did the same technique with essentially...
No music.
Yeah, no music.
Just water.
And the sound effects of just the water and the metal of all the things falling. And it was so well
And then
done.
like each beat had like a new hurdle he had to cross.
Yeah.
Basically. Like, oh, he opened the door. There's a ton of torpedoes.
Yep.
Now he has to be like super careful. And then
it's kind of like Indiana Jones going through like a Temple of Doom type thing.
Yeah,
and
it's like
every
a puzzle.
room has another challenge.
And it's kind of like how the heck is he supposed to do any of this? And then I thought they did a really good job of setting it up too, because all the submarine people are explaining to him like, this is what's going to happen to you. You're going to get the bends. You're going to like you're not going to be able to control your body. Like,
so you understood like what's at stake.
Yeah. Like they
all
really
the dangers.
set the stakes.
Yeah.
Which they also did in the first one, because they talk about like, we cannot let the temperature go above 1 degree.
That's right.
We can't make a noise above a certain decibel. And like they really set the stakes of like how challenging this was going to be. And I would say, I would also add that another sequence that was super tense was in number 5. I think it's 5. Yeah, when he also does the dive, he dives
underwater. Yeah, that is 5.
That whole sequence where he's like spinning around was super tense as well.
Yeah,
because they also set up how impossible that task was going to be,
and he has to hold his breath for a really long time.
Yeah,
which he actually did on set.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which is crazy. Fun fact: of all the stunts that he's done throughout his career, the closest to death he ever came was not a Mission Impossible stunt, but actually in Top Gun. The first one, where he was like, they eject out of the airplane and him and Goose like go down with the parachutes. And apparently like his parachute like filled with water and he just starts sinking down and he almost drowned.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy because that was so early in his career. And then he decided, I'm just going to keep elevating and ramping it up and create a whole franchise based on crazy stunts.
I just can't believe he's 62.
Yes.
Like, he's 62 and he's still able to be that physical. Like, the whole fight in the submarine where he's clearly the one, like, tackling this guy. I was like...
Yeah, in his briefs.
Insane. Yeah, in his briefs, too. Like, you can see his whole body.
He's not hiding his body in his age. Yeah.
It was crazy.
The 100 millisecond thing really kind of bugged me when it was like, oh, you have to catch this within 100 milliseconds, where it was like, it feels so arbitrary that they have like that slim of a margin. And to actually name how short that of a time that is, it doesn't seem like humanly possible. And I feel like the same thing happened in 6, which is the same director and writer, right? Where it was like, oh, these two bombs that are ingeniously connected where they can't be diffused, otherwise it sets off the other, except through removing the key off the detonator. But you can only do that after the countdown starts.
Right.
It was like, What? Why don't you just
Gotta elevate it.
take it off so you don't start the detonator, in the first, I don't know.
Because then they'd both explode.
So I don't know. It was just some of these things are just so
Impossible.
well, more than impossible, just so arbitrary. It felt like.
Oh, okay.
Although this one, I thought at least it was clever that they brought it in and said like, Grace, you have to be the one to do it because what's the difference between a good thief and a great thief or a great pickpocket, right? It's timing, right? So because she had a whole movie where they kind of set that up, I thought that at least kind of made sense in that world.
Yeah.
But I also thought at the end in this movie, the one thing I really felt missing was Rebecca Ferguson.
Me too. I was just gonna say that.
So
she's the best one.
Yes.
And honestly, impossible shoes to fill.
I know, but so in the last movie, and we'll talk a little more when we get into the rankings, but in the last movie, like it's fine killing her off.
No, it's not.
I mean, I agree, it's not. But apparently, like
made me so mad.
She was on a 3-movie contract. She did the 3 movies. They wanted her back for this, but she, had other projects she wanted to do, like Silo.
And Dune.
Yeah. So we wouldn't have gotten those, which I'm glad we got those instead of her in this movie if we had to pick, right?
True.
But they kill her off, and then they've been setting up all this like tension and this kind of like friendship, but also romantic thing between him and Rebecca Ferguson since Rogue Nation, so 5, 6, and 7, and then they kill her off, and he doesn't even get to have a moment with her.
I actually loved that.
Really?
I loved that it basically felt like they were good friends. I loved it.
But
I know that there was like chemistry.
Yeah,
between them.
She literally says, "Come away with me."
Right, but I thought there was something very pure about the relationship because it wasn't about sexuality. It was really just about like we love each other, we care about each other. And that was so much more deep and meaningful to me than any kind of like they're not taking from each other at all.
Well, I will say I think the franchise and the director is trying to play both angles, but even if what you're saying is true, Luther and him got a moment together before he dies, right?
Yeah, and then he didn't even cry when she died. He didn't even cry.
And
he moved on.
And they have like half a scene where they're kind of torn up about it. And then they go, oh, the next part of the mission is,
And then I hated that they were like, you have to choose between the 2 women. And I was like, he has to choose between Rebecca Ferguson and this woman he literally just met.
Yeah. And then now she's being used and just replacing her. And then we're supposed to bring in all of that emotional like investment.
Yeah.
Because when he comes out of the ice in this one and they're in the igloo, or decompression chamber, and they're having all this like kind of intimate moment. And yeah, they don't kiss, I guess. I mean, she gives him CPR. But the whole time I was thinking during a scene, this should be him and Rebecca Ferguson. This should be the culmination of their whole chemistry and tension.
Yeah.
But like, I don't really care about him and Haley Atwell.
Yeah.
Like, they were fine. She was fine.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's like she was okay, but she kind of felt like a replica of Rebecca and the girl from number 2.
Yeah.
Kind of combined.
Yes.
And I was kind of like, we've already seen this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. So that part of it, man. So I think all in all, I do feel like this movie is probably a 3. But man, just the fact that we got the submarine sequence and that whole second act of the movie was just so well done. And then even the biplane stuff, I thought the stunt itself was just really impressive.
Yeah.
So to me, that elevated it.
Well, what I'll say is like, since I rate a lot on rewatchability, I probably will never watch this movie again. But
that's fair.
I will probably watch the submarine sequence again.
Yes.
So I would probably rate the submarine sequence like a 4, maybe a 4.5. If I was just isolating that.
Yeah.
But
if you just cut out the first hour of this movie and essentially started in that second act and then went to the third act, I think this movie could be a 4.0 potentially.
But then we don't have all the stakes from the entity. What is
know.
the entity doing?
And why is it doing it?
I also was irritated by just the whole president stuff. All the president stuff irritated me.
I thought it was good. I thought Angela Bassett. I thought it was Angela Bassett, right?
Yeah, she did. She did fine. She was good. But like all of their scenes were very like,
Nick Offerman?
I don't care. I don't care what they're talking about. Like they're just doubting Ethan Hunt, and we don't really need this POV. It felt really unnecessary, and I didn't know what it really added. Like the whole question mark of, should we nuke our own city in order to prevent World War III? And I'm like,
oh, so that part of it, that part of it I thought was a little weird, where it was like,
I was so confused.
So the entity has taken control of all the nukes, and we need to nuke all the major nuclear powers to prevent it from nuking the most of the world.
Only one, though. Only one city. They picked one city.
No, they picked one U.S. city, and then they would simultaneously nuke like China, the UK.
Oh,
Pakistan.
I thought they were just gonna nuke their own.
No,
city.
they were gonna nuke all of the other powers where the nukes reside.
See how little I care.
Except for and then also offer up one of our own to show it was like sacrificial. You know?
Yeah.
Like we had to do it.
Yeah.
Which also is like, aren't nuclear, launch places shielded from nukes?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, but it's like you're essentially nuking half the world so that the entity doesn't nuke the whole world.
And then I literally laughed out loud when when the map like lights up again, and the one guy goes, "He did it. He really did it." I like was laughing in the theater because that is like the most cliche line. He did it. He really did.
Yeah.
Wasn't that it?
I don't know. I was listening.
It was the last bit of dialogue too before the voiceover.
Oh, yeah. He does say that. I don't remember the map lighting up, but I guess because I was feeling like, yeah, Tom Cruise did it, so it was resonating with me. But I was listening to I think it was the Big Picture podcast that she was saying it was really weird how they're still only on like DEFCON like 4 or something as the entity's already taking over nuclear powers.
Yeah.
And then it goes up to like 2 or whatever. And only when the US goes, now we're finally at DEFCON 1. It's like, I thought that was pretty funny.
I don't know how that makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't notice that when I was watching it.
Also, there's not a big red button.
No, there was.
Yeah, that's not how it is in real life, though.
Oh, no, you don't know that.
Actually, I just listened to a podcast about this. There are 2 separate keys on opposite ends. They have to be turned at the same time by 2 different people.
But isn't it you both turn it and then someone has to push the red button?
That might be. I can't remember.
Come on. Before you send off a nuke, you have to push a big red button.
But the president doesn't.
It can't be like a flip switch or something.
The president does not press it. The president just says to do it. Which it is crazy that our president has the authority to just nuke whenever he wants. That's just an option that the president has the authority to do.
Yeah.
And the reason for it is because if somebody attacks us with nukes, we have a total of 7 minutes to react.
Wow. In the absence of the entity, basically, completely from the story, the only stakes we were really getting was the stakes of like it taking over nuclear powers and the decision of what to do.
Yeah. So, which the stakes were high.
Yeah. And, I think so that those scenes still added a lot of kind of weight and, just like the whole world really being on the line. So I do think that worked. I do think that this movie is still worth watching. Would you say it's still worth watching?
If you like Mission Impossible, yeah.
Okay. Do you think it gave a satisfying ending to the whole franchise?
It was a little open-ended at the end.
Yeah. We will now go into our franchise ranking.
Yeah.
So we'll start with number 8 and see where this falls. What would you say was number 8 in the franchise?
That's so easy. Number 2.
Yeah, I agree. John Woo.
The worst one. I'm sorry, John Woo.
Oh, man. I will say I saw it when it first came out. Okay? And at the time, there was a lot of excitement and hype about John Woo because he was the big up-and-coming action, Hong Kong director. And then also, he had done Face Off, which is one of my 5-star movies. So there was a lot of hype about him helming a Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
But this movie had too much John Woo. It was like all these zoom, slow-mo, the pigeons, all those are like his hallmarks, and
the pigeons had me cackling.
Yeah.
But
that's like from Face Off has it, and so that's kind of like his trademark. but it just like didn't fit. And then the whole love story thing, like it was just
so cheesy.
Yeah, it was so bad. And so I was also shocked on this rewatch to see that this was actually Hans Zimmer had scored this. I was like, I love Hans Zimmer. This might be his worst soundtrack he's ever done.
Oh,
it was pretty terrible.
Very early, very 2000.
Yeah.
I mean, I think also I will say, in the one thing I can think to defend it, I gave it 2 stars, is that it's like the only Mission Impossible movie that's not really about nukes. Instead, it's like a disease thing that he's trying to stop.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of felt like every other movie other than number 1 was about nukes. So,
yeah,
that was one thing I'll say in its favor.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I agree with you. Number 2 is last.
At the bottom.
Okay, number 7th place. What would you give it?
Number 7. MI7.
Dead Reckoning?
I think that's, Dead Reckoning.
Oh, I agree with you.
What?
Well, yes.
Dude.
You know, a lot of people really like this movie.
Rebecca Ferguson dying was the biggest mistake ever.
And the way they did it.
Terrible.
It was so...
And again,
they just
cartoon bad guy.
Moved on.
Cartoon bad guy. The dialogue was a lot cheesier. I already complained about that. And then I also got really irritated with some of the editing. I thought the whole train sequence at the end was exciting.
That was the only highlight of this.
But it was very drawn out. And yeah, I just couldn't get over the editing. How they kept doing close up, close up, close up. And I'm like, cut to a wide, please.
Yeah.
I want to like see what's going on or where people are, you know?
Even in Final Reckoning, it was like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. This movie has so many scenes of people just sitting around talking and expositing to each other.
I don't even remember that. Oh, too many car chases as well.
Yeah, like in the club, in like, just so many times like that. And then it was highlighted by the scene where he jumps off the ramp thing, which was kind of a cool stunt. But I think because it's over so quickly, you don't really get to appreciate the ramifications of that stunt. He jumps off the thing.
That was probably the coolest
falls.
stunt.
Yeah. But no, I like the train thing better, where he's hanging in the train. But then when he all of a sudden Grace is like at gunpoint, and then Tom just like parachutes in exactly the window to take out the guy right at the right moment.
Yeah. That was kind of funny, but yeah.
I mean, it was funny, but it was like everything
ridiculous.
Is just so ridiculous and arbitrary that,
I agree.
Okay. In 6th place, I have Mission Impossible 6. Fallout. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you have?
I have 8. The new one.
Oh, the new one.
Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, we already talked about, but again.
Okay.
Bad guy. Not a super interesting plot. Cool stunts, but ultimately, not my favorite.
Okay. So I think Fallout here because essentially it's number 5, Rogue Nation, but they just changed the Syndicate to the Apostles. They changed Lane to now Lark we're looking for. And like, it's like the same movie that Christopher McQuarrie did for Rogue Nation.
Yeah.
And just added another layer, but still kept those other things. So now you have like double the amount of things going on. It was so convoluted that it was just
what about Walker?
Too much.
Did Walker like replace Rebecca Ferguson's character or like double agent?
He replaces like the Lane character, but then you still have both of them.
Yeah.
So
I have MI6 as my number 5, but just to add to like what you're saying.
Oh, okay. So you're close.
I'm like right above.
Yeah.
I think that the reason that I liked MI6 better than MI8.
Okay.
Maybe it's because of Rebecca Ferguson. Maybe.
Okay.
I
mean, I agree.
But I thought like some of the action sequences were really cool. Like I loved when they jump out of the plane and he like has to save Henry Cavill's life. And then when they have that fight in the bathroom with the Asian guy.
Yeah.
That was probably the best hand-to-hand combat sequence.
That was good.
And it was lit really well, so you could actually like see what was happening.
And it was shot in wides.
It was shot in wides. Like I thought that fight was one of the best that I've seen in the whole thing.
Okay.
And then I thought, like, I think I agree with you. The bad guy being Solomon again was kind of like...
And Lark.
Yeah, it was kind of a repeat of number 5.
Which
and
was
he was kind of just after
it.
vengeance, which is to me a weak motivation.
Versus he had like an ideological thing before, which was stronger.
Which was way stronger.
Yeah.
But I think the end of this movie was actually really sweet. Like the fact that Michelle Monaghan
he gets to see
came
her
back
again.
And they really got to kind of tie that up.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got to tell him like, hey, you didn't ruin my life. Like I liked that whole ending. So that's why 6 is above for me.
And I do think 6 has a great helicopter chase.
Yeah, which they basically copied in the 8th one.
Yeah, but I almost think the helicopter chase was more suspenseful, even though it was potentially less dangerous. But he was really flying the thing, and he was doing those corkscrews, and so it's very dangerous stuff.
Between the mountains.
Yeah. But I think the whole like the only way we can defuse this is we have to wait for the countdown to start.
Yeah.
To me, that I think killed it. I was like, I'm over it. You know, like it's so stupid.
But that's why 8 is there for me.
Okay.
Because the same issue.
I will say for me in 6th place.
5th.
Oh, sorry. In 5th place, I actually have Rogue Nation here. Yeah. Which might be a little
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy that you liked MI8 better than Rogue Nation.
This was the hardest one for me. I actually have MI8. I know a lot of people are probably like, you're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong. MI5 is so much better.
I do have MI8 at number 4, and I was very split on Rogue Nation and Final Reckoning, but I do really like Rogue Nation a lot. That's where we get introduced to Rebecca Ferguson. She's stunning and, girl boss, and
that's why you're wrong.
All of those things.
Bad guy was like legit scary.
But in terms of the stunts, okay, you have the underwater thing.
Wait, are we rating based on stunts? I didn't know that.
It's Mission Impossible. Yes, we are.
No, I'm rating on plot.
Was both. But I think that the underwater scene was good in Rogue Nation, but the one in 8 was vastly superior.
Only because it was a stretched out version.
But it was so much more suspenseful. It was so much better. The set piece was much bigger, more suspenseful. So I thought that was better. And then otherwise, Rogue Nation has like some motorcycle chase scenes, which was fine. It was cool. And then has the one famous airplane stunt where he's hanging off the side of the airplane. But again, like in Dead Reckoning, it's so quick. It's essentially one shot. So you just have him like a shot of him hanging there, and then it's over.
Okay.
So I was kind of like, I don't know. I think other than really Rebecca Ferguson, like to me, Rogue Nation
and the bad guy. Solomon?
Yeah, Solomon. He was good.
He's like actually scary because he's on par with Hunt.
Yeah, I think the submarine whole second act to me is what just nudges it over Rogue Nation. What do you have in 4?
You're wrong. Wait, one more comment I want to say about 6. This was the movie of like way too many double crosses. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
So many double crosses that I was like...
It was too complicated. It was so convoluted, the whole movie.
I was like, okay, now this guy's on this guy's team. Now this guy's on this guy's team. Oh, he was wearing a mask. Oh, he was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Oh. It's like very convoluted.
I really think he took a really well-written Rogue Nation, which was the first time he was coming to the project.
Yeah.
And then just was like, let's just add 3 times more twists and this and bad guys and this and that.
And Ethan Hunt was always like 10 steps ahead of the bad guy too. So I never felt like worried for him.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 4 for me was Ghost Protocol.
No.
Yep.
No, JB.
Because oh, look at that. 4th place is 4. So Ghost Protocol, I thought, had definitely the coolest gadgets.
Yes.
And some of the coolest stunt work, for sure. I mean, he's swinging off the tallest building in the world.
Yes.
But I thought plot-wise, bad guy, extremely forgettable. Also, motivation, kind of boring, not interesting. I felt the side characters were... Like, Jeremy Renner's character was interesting.
He was good.
But, like...
Paula Patton.
Yeah.
She wasn't the best.
She was okay. Boring.
Yeah, but she was kind of... Yeah.
And then I felt like a lot of the movie just felt really... I don't know. it felt longer than the other movies somehow.
Okay, I agree with you. Because up until the Burj scene, like, I thought the Kremlin stuff was great. Like, the hallway thing with the...
Yeah, that's so cool.
The image reflector thing, screen.
So cool.
That was awesome. It was great. And it was funny.
Yeah.
And then Simon Pegg is hilarious in that movie.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he shines the most in number 4.
I agree.
And then the whole everything in Dubai, great, right?
Yeah.
When they then go to Dubai for the last act, it just felt really drawn out. So
Dubai? Don't they go to India?
Sorry, Mumbai.
Mumbai.
Yeah.
Okay.
When they go to Mumbai, which that was actually shot in Dubai, but
okay.
it's doubling for Mumbai. Yeah, so I agree. That whole last act was just really like drawn out, and you're like, oh, this movie didn't really need all of this.
Yeah, the ending was very like, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But the first 2 acts are so good.
Plus, Luther wasn't in it. Got a doc points for that.
Oh yeah, is that the only one he's not in?
I think so. He's at the very end.
Oh, okay.
He comes in
does
the
show up.
one little scene.
Yep.
Makes a cameo, basically.
Yeah. Well, you'll see where I rank Ghost Protocol later. But in third place, I have MI3.
Okay.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. I think this one was just like a really good, solid story.
Yep.
It doesn't really have much great stunts. I mean, it does have a really cool helicopter chase through the windmills, which I've forgotten about, but that was really cool. You have the whole thing where like they're on the bridge and the
bridge
drones
blows
are
up.
Yeah, and like he gets like blown up and knocked against a car, which he really did do that stunt. So I thought that stuff was great, but you also get like his wife backstory where we get Jules like in the story. The whole opening interrogation scene where Philip Seymour Hoffman has like the gun to his wife's head and is like, tell me where the rabbit's foot is, like, was just so good. It's probably the best opening of any of these movies, I think.
Insane.
Yeah. And then when they bring it back and then the twist that they have on it,
yeah,
it was all like Philip Seymour Hoffman makes this movie. He's the best villain of the whole franchise. And
I agree.
Like, one thing I just love about this franchise in the first 4, I think this franchise is basically like the first 4 are Tom Cruise being like, you know, he's starting his new production company. He's like, let me take chances on these different people. First one, Brian De Palma, he's well established, already well respected. That's fine, right? So he does that to start it off. Number 2, John Woo, basically kind of an unknown guy, right? From Hong Kong, did a couple American movies right before. Takes a swing on that, big miss. Okay. But number 3 is J.J. Abrams doing his first movie. Because he had done Alias, he had done Lost, you know. So he had done
started Lost.
Yeah, started Lost. But he had done all these like really successful TV shows. And some people say, oh, this movie's like kind of like just like a long TV episode. I didn't feel that.
I didn't feel that
Yeah,
either.
It felt like a proper movie. But I thought like J.J. Abrams did a good job like directing this movie.
Yeah.
It also like where Kerry Russell dies, who he had and has a star in Felicity. So like for him to kill her off the way she did, like, was like pretty intense. And you know, so I thought 3 was really, really, really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also love Billy Crudup.
He
did
really good.
So good in this movie.
Yes.
I mean, he's great in like everything I've seen him in, basically. So I thought that was very well cast.
Mm-hmm. What do you have in third place?
So I have So I have Rogue Nation, number 5. I really loved number 5 because it was Rebecca Ferguson's first movie.
Yeah.
She absolutely slayed. Can I still say slayed? I don't know. Solomon Lane, legitimately a very scary bad guy. I loved that he was Ethan Hunt's foil, basically, because they kind of came from the same roots.
Oh, yeah,
and just sort of split philosophies. Mm-hmm. So that was really interesting to kind of see Ethan come up against him. Mm-hmm. And it felt like Ethan was legitimately terrified of him, which was, it helped build up like a lot of tension. I also really liked the stunt work because, like I mentioned before, the underwater sequence was very scary. Mm-hmm. And then the opening stunt was crazy. him like hanging onto the airplane as it's taking off.
I mean, it is crazy when you think about it.
That's like the biggest stunt I think that he did
up to
thus
that point.
far.
Yeah.
Thus far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's
weird.
The opening.
Yeah, it's weird because, and a lot of times, I think in most of these, the big, like most dangerous stunt, they would film first. Like first thing before they do anything.
Right.
Yeah. Which is like twofold. One is like these things take so much time and precision to like line up that you don't want to have all that dead time in the middle of the movie. But I think it's also smart because, you know, in case Tom Cruise dies, at least they don't have to waste their money on the rest of the movie.
That's fair. That's fair. All right.
But
so
in second place, you want to go first?
Ghost Protocol. Right?
Yes, it is Ghost Protocol.
All right. Tell everybody why.
It can only be Ghost Protocol. Number 2. And I might be biased.
He's very biased, but it's cool. It's very cool.
It might be biased because I did get to work on the behind the scenes crew.
Yes.
For the Dubai segment of it. It was really like fun just being on that big of a set.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Cruise, man, okay. Setting the time frame, like at this time is when Tom Cruise is basically like just a few years removed, I think, from having jumped on the couch on Oprah's thing with Katie Holmes in his relationship, and everyone's just like, he is crazy, right? And he had fallen out of grace, I think, in a lot of ways. So I'm kind of like looking down on the guy and like, whatever, Mission Impossible. Like I'm kind of not that into it, you know? And then I go on set and I just see this guy who's producing, acting, like he's doing the stunt. I see him and he's like in his 50s or whatever, you know, and he's just like, you know, taking his shirt off and he's ripped. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy, right? Puts me to shame. And he's like just so genuinely passionate about the work, you know, like at the end of the day, it's just an action movie, right?
Yeah.
But he is so passionate. Like there was tension. This was like Brad Bird's first film, right? So, you know, like I had said, you know, Tom Cruise had been taking a chance on these different directors. J.J. Abrams' first feature film. But also Brad Bird had only done animation and this goes into his first live action movie. So there was tension on set between like him and the crew, like the DP, like, you know, he wasn't doing things exactly the way that you do on set. You know, things were not always efficient, right? So,
and he was the first to use the IMAX cameras too.
Oh, for the Mission Impossible franchise, probably, yeah. Oh, is that okay? Yeah, I
he says that.
Forgot about that. Yeah, and so, even amidst all that tension, Tom Cruise was always the guy who showed up, had a great mood, was just like always there to like lift everyone up and just be positive about everything and. Just like, yeah, we could do this, you know? And then he's like climbing out there on the Burj Khalifa, you know? And I see him go like after he does all that stuff, he just to take a photo for a magazine cover, like climbs up to the very, very top. It's not even in the movie. And just sits up there. And when you see the photo, you can see like the graffiti there. Like they were thinking of like photoshopping that out. But then people would be like, oh, that was photoshopped, you know? So he kept all that in there. Oh, so he took our whole crew to go-kart. And so I got to go-kart against Tom Cruise.
And you ate dust.
Everybody ate dust. I'm sure he definitely lapped me. He lapped everybody, you know.
Word.
And I'm a fast driver, so like, you know, this is Dubai go-karting, so it was like a, you know, it goes up and you go, it's the stunt over here. But you go underneath and it was like kind of a cool, like advanced course.
Oh, that's cool.
But he just destroyed I mean, he is a legit racer, right?
Wow. Okay, you got to tell me the car stunt.
Oh, okay.
I've been waiting to hear this story.
Okay, so in the scene where they go through the sandstorm, he's chasing after the guy with the BMW, right?
Always.
And then he gets on the opposite exit so that he can catch up and then ram right into him, right? And then the car like flips as he like comes out of it. Well, they had built that whole scene takes place on this bridge in Dubai out in the desert, but they couldn't film on the real bridge because like it would probably get damaged. So they built like one section of that bridge as a replica on like the regular flat ground. And then they have the B unit director like do that car thing where they pull the two cars with like wires, and then they like use a ratchet to flip the car. But the car gets flipped when there's like a piston in the back that actually like
launches it.
Yeah, a cannon that launches it up. So they did a test, and then the test went perfectly. It was great. So, I saw that. We filmed the behind the scenes for that, and that went great. So they're like, great, let's like set up for the whole thing, spend a few weeks getting the whole thing ready. And they do the thing with the real cars, and then boom, the car doesn't flip. It just smashes into each other. And we're like, what? They're like, what happened, right? And apparently on collision, there was some short that happened with the cannon, and it didn't fire.
Oh.
The problem is that they're using these production cars that are like these BMW prototypes or whatever, and they only have the one of it. So they can't just refilm it with another car. And this car is totally wrecked. They can't rebuild it. So they have to delay for like a week and a half to have Germany like ship in another replica or another production car that they can then re-outfit and rebuild from scratch, basically.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so there's so much at stake. And then like basically like right up to the like time that they're about to have to leave Dubai, they have to refilm the thing. And then they do it, and this time, boom, it fires. And it actually like works out beautifully. And that's where they comp in like Tom Cruise like being right there when it like hits and smashes and goes over.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was just like being behind the scenes to see all that and be part of all that kind of production drama.
It will always have a special place in your heart.
Yeah. So this movie, like, just getting to see Tom Cruise work and just his passion, like, and he carried that throughout the whole franchise. Him being willing to just do whatever it takes for the sake of the movie and the story. Man, I just had so much respect for the guy.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he's kind of made a comeback, I think, into our society, into like the public eye of like people really appreciating like what he's done throughout his career.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about your shot.
Oh, okay.
I want to hear about this too.
So while I was, we're filming out there in the desert, the sandstorm, they're really blowing sand. It's just like nasty. It's hot. I have like a burqa like covered over me just to like, and it's just miserable, we're just like out there all day just filming this stuff. And so at one point I'm like, I'm like, oh man, I just need to get out of the sun, go to Crafty. So I sneak away, and then my DP, he's at one point he's like, Albert, where are you? Like they're about to film like the chase scene or whatever, where Tom Cruise is like running after the guy as he's speeding off on the truck. And then so I'm like, oh yeah. I'm out here like getting a shot. So I like quickly like, I have like some food in my mouth, some water, and then I like run out. I like hide behind like this like shelter like to get get shade, and I just quickly set up the shot to get like a landscape shot of Dubai, right?
Yeah.
Because we're like out in the desert. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just getting this like landscape shot, right? Like for B-roll, right? And then he's like, oh okay, well, and then so I don't know what's happening, what's gonna be where, and then I'm rolling, and then all of a sudden I see at the very bottom, perfectly framed, I see the truck go by, and then the bad guy on it, and Tom Cruise just running like doing the Tom Cruise run, just like running after the truck, and then the camera following behind him, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I just got the shot.
I'm gonna roll the clip.
And so I go like, oh my gosh, guys, I just got this great shot of them. And then afterwards, I show it to my director of our behind the scenes crew, who's also Anthony Cicchino, shout out. He's the brother of the composer, Michael Cicchino. And so I showed it to him. They're like, oh my God, this is great. So the next few days, we're in Dubai still, but at the hotel where they're filming the Mumbai sequence. And then so Paula Penn, Brad Bird, Tom Cruise, the producers, everyone's there, right? And then they're like waiting around for something to get set up, and so there's a little downtime. So our behind the scenes director, he's very boldly has my shot queued up on a laptop and walks up to a circle of all the producers. Tom Cruise was there. I'm not sure if Brad Bird was in that circle, but he shows Tom Cruise my shot. And I see from from the other side of the set, I see Tom Cruise being like, whoa, that's cool. So I never got to shake the man's hand, but I did get burned by him on the go-kart track. And he did see something that I filmed.
Take.
Yeah. And
That's
I
so
think
cool.
in the DVD, if you pull up the special
If you
features,
still have DVDs.
yeah, if you pull up the special features menu, that shot is the plate, like the video plate of it. So
That's
that is
awesome.
my second place.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I cannot fault you for that.
But
will
it's
say,
also
though-
a great movie.
I will say though, I actually read my thing backwards, and 4 is actually number 5.
No,
I'm sorry. I read it backwards.
No, come on, Jamie, that's wrong.
6 was
It's
actually number
below
4.
6.
Yeah.
Come on, guys,
Sorry.
defend me here.
I'm sorry.
Defend me here.
I liked it. It's just not as high as 6
Burj
for me.
Khalifa sequence was so
The
good.
helicopters.
The helicopters was good.
Anyway, okay.
Okay, what do you have
Sorry,
second?
guys. That feels like such a letdown that I did it out of order like that. Okay, what I have in second. Oh, I don't even need to check. It's Mission Impossible: The Original.
Wait, what is your number 1? What, 1, 2? Oh, number 3 is your
Number
first.
3 is my favorite.
Wow.
And I guess we'll have to
Wow.
talk about them simultaneously.
You also love J.J. Abrams, so
But
maybe that's why.
I do love J.J. Abrams, but like I think this movie to me, and because I watched them in order for the first time, like
Yeah.
starting 2 weeks ago, for me, MI3 felt like the most high stakes because it was so personal.
Mm.
Like, it wasn't just about some mission, it was about saving his wife's life.
Hmm.
And like doing everything he can to save his wife.
Yes.
And like you mentioned earlier,
Yes.
that opening sequence was such an intense way to start the movie,
Mm.
giving us a taste of what's to come without really spoiling everything.
Yeah,
Because we
it's
don't know how
actually
he gets
sets you-
there.
and when it plays out again, it's setting you up for the twist that you
Yeah.
don't see coming.
True. And I think it does a really good job of kind of making Ethan fail,
Mm.
which he doesn't fail in any of these except 3. 3 is the only time that he actually kind of makes a pretty big mistake.
Mm.
He doesn't see the bad guy coming. He's not 3 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
And you actually fear for his life multiple times. I mean, when she's like helping him electrocute him,
Mm.
she's electrocuting him to get the thing in his head to short
Yeah.
circuit. And then you're like, is he gonna make it?
Mm.
Like, I don't know. And then just the fact that Philip
Although-
Seymour Hoffman
Although
is
in that scene, I will say, as he's like about to like convulsing, he's teaching her how to shoot a gun, and then immediately she
She's
picks up
so
a gun
good.
one-handed, boom, 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 and like just takes the
dude,
guy out.
She was,
That was-
a beast.
I guess he's a great teacher.
She's a beast. I was impressed by her too. But
She was.
part of me too was like, she is a nurse, so she is used to like the emergency room and like being
Under
I guess
high pressure.
good under high
That's
pressure.
true. That's true. Okay, I buy it.
But at the same time, it's a little unbelievable. I
Yeah.
agree.
You were gonna say,
But
about
I was gonna
Philip
say
Seymour.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is like, to me, the scariest villain in the entire
100%.
franchise. He did such a good job. He's so like just evil,
Mm.
and his motivations are just purely like, I don't care about you.
Mm.
I don't care about you. I don't care about
It's
your
just
life.
business.
Like, this is just, yeah,
Mhm.
like just his coldness, but then also how he's able to threaten Hunt even though he's the one who's been captured.
Mm.
And then, yeah, the whole like bridge scene, and then Ethan's like standing there like, I just ruined everything, and like trying to get hold of his wife, like, come on, come on, come on.
Yeah.
And then Billy Crudup's double cross,
Mhm.
I did not see coming.
It was really well done.
I did not see coming. I
Mhm.
thought the whole time the other guy, was the double agent.
Mm.
I totally fell for his schemes.
Mm.
I was like, yeah, the other guy's gotta be the bad guy.
Mhm.
And then Billy Crudup's like, no, I made that up. And I was like,
Yeah.
so, dude, MI3, so good.
It,
So good.
I do agree. I see a valid argument for MI3 as the best one. It is very, very good. It could potentially be number 2 for me. But
I will say though,
Yeah.
I still gave it a 3.5.
Okay, you know what? I also think I also gave a number 3.5. Yeah. But there's only one correct answer for first place, which is Mission Impossible 1.
Yep.
It's the only correct answer.
I mean, I was right behind you. I like how you did M1 Impossible.
Yeah, so number 1, man, rewatching. I'm so glad I rewatched it, and it holds up so well. It's more of a suspense thriller than an action movie, which is what I love about it.
Yeah.
And I do think 3 has a lot of that energy too. I almost think like 3 was like, oh yeah, 2 was a mistake. Let's go back to 1. And then they try to kind of do a lot of what they did in 1.
Yeah.
So I think that's why 1 and 3 feel very similar.
Yeah.
And then number 4, I really love because Brad Bird brings this kind of new, fresh energy. And I think he's the one that actually cues what Christopher McQuarrie is going to do for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Brad Bird was actually supposed to come back on for 5. They wanted him to, but he was unavailable.
I like that the characters kept coming back too, because up until 4, we basically had a full new cast every movie, except for Luther.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, now that you've gone through all the Mission Impossible franchise for the first time, do you feel like it was worth your time? Like, are you glad you did this marathon?
It was a lot. It was a lot. I just feel like, the last 2 weeks have just been Mission Impossible.
Like, do you feel like you would have been missing out on something if you had continued to live your life never having seen any of these movies?
Maybe. I mean, I mentioned in our Mission Impossible review that this made me really appreciate stunt work. Like way more than Fall Guy. I think each movie delivers on stunts, and I'm a person who doesn't really care for action because usually I find it boring. Like honestly, all the car chase scenes are really boring for me in all of the movies. But all the other stunts are just incredible.
Yes.
That I'm like, you can't not appreciate it, you know? Even a person who doesn't really like action movies can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that says a lot. I'm glad I watched them. I'm glad I took part in this culture.
Tom Cruise, I don't know what you have in store. Maybe Top Gun 3, maybe another Mission Impossible. But if this is your last of Ethan Hunt, we salute you, my friend. Cheers.
Glad you didn't die doing a stunt.
Yes. Although I do think he would love to go out that way.
Wow. Yeah, he probably would.
Yeah. That would be.
Wow, we really disagreed on some stuff.
Yeah.
You can see that.
But I think overall the pattern is pretty close though.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Let us know what you think. Let us know how you would rank all the Mission Impossible movies and what you thought of the last one, if it was a good conclusion or not. And
you can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Letterboxd, or Apple Podcasts.
And join us next time as we continue our quest for the 5th star.